welcome to Fantasia, home of the Melodious. My name's Azallea, and today, gonna be bringing you guys the update to my Lunalight deck. So without any further ado, let's just jump right into this. So starting off, we're gonna be playing one copy of Lunalight White Rabbit. Now, you only need one copy of White Rabbit in this build because you don't really want to see her in your opening hand. You want to have her in circulation mid to late game so you have access to her in order to make a very easy Panther Dancer, because White Rabbit can bring back Clydo Chick can send Cat Dancer, and you can just fuse for a Panther Dancer, and that can really easily break your opponent's boards. But yeah, other than that, she's actually really good for just providing you with some link fodder, easily climb your way into something like a Underclock Taker, and then you can make your fusion monster under the Underclock Taker, and then go from there. But anyway, enough of that. We are playing 3 copies of Lunalight Black Sheep, and we're also playing 3 copies of Lunalight Clydo Chick. So these 2 cards are like the bread and butter of the deck. Black Sheep searches for polymerization, Clydo Chick recovers with polymerization, Clydo Chick sends Lunalight monsters from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard, and when Black Sheep's used as a fusion material, she recovers Lunalight monsters from your extra deck or your graveyard. So that's why they're both really amazing. And you need to play 3 of them because they are actually very important to the combos that are in this deck. This is a Dark Lunalight build, so it is... It has the options of going for some combos, as well as just falling back on the standard Lunalight plays if you don't really have anything to go off of. So the cards that you're basically going to send off of Clydo Chick include 1 copy of Lunalight Blue Cat and 1 copy of Lunalight Crimson Fox. So you might be wondering, why are you playing 1 Blue Cat? Well, Blue Cat is actually not very essential to the combos of this deck. It's just nice to have her in circulation just in case you need her to boost the attack of some of your Lunalight fusion monsters. But other than that, Blue Cat and Crimson Fox are just really nice targets to send with Clydo Chick. Same with White Rabbit. Actually, White Rabbit's actually one of the best targets to send as well. The first target that I usually like to send is Crimson Fox because it just provides you some protection in the graveyard if you're going for some fusion plays. But other than that, yeah, these cards at 1 are completely fine. You want to save your normal summons for the Dark Engine, which I'll get into in just a bit. The next card they play is going to be 3 copies of Lunalight Tiger, and Lunalight Tiger, of course, is like absolutely amazing because of its recurring monster reborn effect that's not once per turn in the pendulum scale. And if you're not playing through Lunalight Tiger, you're basically not playing Lunalights correctly, in my opinion. So just play 3. It's absolutely amazing. You want to see her in your opening hand. She's essential to almost all of your combos. And then we're playing 1 copy of Lunalight Wolf. She's also a nice target to send with Lunalight Clydo Chick, just because she's a 1-of. If you don't want to banish her from your deck with something like Pot of Desires and things like that, it's completely fine. But she's actually really accessible in this deck because of the fact that we can easily access Lunalight Perfume whenever we want if we get our combos off. So there's that. But yeah, that does it for all of the Lunalight monsters. Next off, we're going to go into the Dark Engine, which is the engine that basically facilitates all of the major combos in this deck. Okay, so to start off the Dark Engine, we are playing 3 copies of Summoner Monk. Now, Summoner Monk is at 3 because of the fact that you want to see him in your opening hand. He is the best combo enabler for your deck, and there are a lot of 3-card combos with this card. I know 3-card combos sounds like it's a ridiculous number, 2-card combos are more optimal and things like that, but Lunalights have a lot of consistency in the things that they can search and all the cards that they can access and the draw power that they have in the deck. So 3 copies of Summoner Monk is just to raise the consistency just a little bit more so that you can see him in your opening hand just that much more often. Now, the card that you're typically going to be summoning with your Summoner Monk are going to be Armageddon Knights. So we're playing 2 copies of Armageddon Knight, and if you watch previous, Dark Lunalight builds of mine, you'd see that I really love Armageddon Knight because of the fact that you can just set up your graveyard. Well, the combo with this deck is that with Summoner Monk and Armageddon Knight, if you have a Lunalight Black Sheep in your hand as well, you search out for polymerization, which is very easy fodder for your Summoner Monk. And it's probably one of the best cards to ditch anyway, because when you discard polymerization with Summoner Monk, you summon out Armageddon Knight. Armageddon Knight will send Clydo Chick to the graveyard, and because Clydo Chick was sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can add that polymerization just back to your hand. So it is very, very good. So even with just that play and nothing else, you have access to Starving Venom Fusion Dragon because you can just fuse the Summoner Monk and Armageddon Knight and go from there with that polymerization that you just added back. Now, we're also playing one copy of Blackwing Zephyros the Elite. Typically, we used to send this with Armageddonite, but now that we have so many more Link monsters to work with, this deck can actually very easily access Curious, and Curious, the Lightsworn Dominion, is very easy to summon in this build because of the fact that Summoner Monk is a spellcaster, Armageddonite's a warrior, and Kaleido is usually the third card that you're going to use for the Curious summon, and Kaleido is a Beast Warrior type, so that's why it's very easy to access in this deck. But, you know, if worse comes to worse, you could always send the Zephyros, and Zephyros are Winged Beast as well, so a different type as the Summoner Monk and the Armageddonite. You can easily make the Curious and just go from there, and Curious can send a lot of different things from your deck to the graveyard. But I'll get into that when we get to the extra deck. Okay, so the last few monsters that I play in this deck are just going to be 3 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. I don't really play Effect Veilers. You can side those if you would like. If your meta is very like Pendulum Magician oriented or things like that, you could replace it with Ash Blossom as well, but it really doesn't matter. As long as you have some form of hand trap in your deck, you don't really want to play too many because it's a combo oriented one, but you just need a little bit of disruption for your opponent's turn, because this deck can actually churn out quite a bit of disruptions on your side of the field. It's not really necessarily negations, but it's just a lot of disruption that your opponent has to play around. Alright, so that does it for the monsters. Next off, we're going to go into the spell cards. Okay, so for these spell cards, starting off, we're playing 3 copies of Fire Formation Tenki, and Tenki is the searcher for the Lunalight archetype. Basically, it allows you to search anything except for Lunalight Wolf, which is fine because we have ways to actually get access to her fairly easily. We're also playing 2 copies of Polymerization, and I'm playing 1 copy of Fusion Substitute. Fusion Substitute is actually fantastic in this deck because of the fact that Summoner Monk works really well with it. If you don't want to add the Polymerization from your graveyard back to your hand, you can always just banish the Fusion Substitute, return a Fusion monster from your graveyard back to your extra deck, and then get a free draw and potentially continue your combo off from there. The next card that I play is going to be 3 copies of Lunalight Perfume, and this is like the Monster Reborn for the archetype, and it also doubles as a searcher as well, which is fantastic. If you don't open up Lunalight Tiger, this is also an amazing card to open up with, because it basically does the same thing. Next off, I'm running a couple of draw cards, so I'm playing 2 copies of Pot of Desires, 1 copy of Allure of Darkness, and 1 copy of Upstart Goblin. So 1 copy of Allure is really here as just a little bit extra consistency. I didn't like playing more than 1 because the fact that if you drew multiples, it really sucked, because that means you more likely than not didn't have enough dark monsters in your hand that you want to get rid of. This just helps you kind of dig for your Summoner Monk and or your Armageddonite. Both of those cards are really good enablers for the deck, so that's why you want to see them as fast as possible. But yeah, these ratios I found were actually perfectly fine. So yeah, that does it for these spell cards, the main bulk of the deck. Next off, we're just going to go into like the one-off techs. So the techs that I run this deck are going to be 1 copy of Reinforcements of the Army. Basically counts as like a 3rd copy of Armageddonite, running 1 copy of Foolish Burial. This card tutors out a lot of things from your deck. Depending on what you need in your hand, if you have a black sheep in your hand, you can even send something like Lunalight Tiger, recover it from your graveyard and things like that. But you can send Crimson Fox, lower the attack of your opponent's monster to 0, send Kaleido, add a Polymerization from your graveyard back to your hand, and you can even send something like Zephyros if you don't have access to Curious and all that good stuff. We also play 1 copy of Monster Reborn. Pretty self-explanatory, this deck just Monster Reborns everything. We have 3 Tigers, 3 Perfumes, and now this. And we also have Soul Charge, same thing. You just top deck this, you win. If you open this in your opening hand, you're just going to make an incredible board. The opponent's going to have a pretty hard time getting over. And then we're also playing 1 copy of Raigeki for the board wipe. This is really just because this deck can go 1st or 2nd, and Raigeki is a really good card to have in your deck, just because if you're going 2nd, you're going up against a deck that pumps out negations. This is a free bait card that you can use before you try to go off on your own combos. But yeah, that does it for all of these spell cards. Next off, we're going to go into the extra deck. Alright, so for the extra deck, starting off, we're playing 2 copies of Underclock Taker. Now, we're playing 2 copies of Underclock Taker because of the fact that it is actually a Dark Attribute and a Cybers type monster. So, if you really need a 3rd type to access, you can easily make your Underclock Taker with maybe you have like a bunch of Lunalight monsters and you don't need any more Beast Warriors. You can make this Cybers type, and then with your remaining types on the field, you can go ahead and summon your Curious from your extra deck, which is very good. It's just more convenient convenient access if you ever need it. Now, we're also playing one copy of Decode Talker and one copy of Curious. Of course, Curious is one of the main focuses of the deck. Decode Talker is here because of the fact that Underclock Taker only has a down arrow, so if you have extra monsters on your side of the field and you want to open up more zones, after you summon something under the Underclock Taker, you can go ahead and make your Decode Talker, which opens up 2 more extra monster zones for you to go ahead and summon your monsters to. Curious right here is basically like one of the main focuses of the deck, like I mentioned earlier. Very easy to access because we play so many different types of monsters and they're all darks. And this card can actually help you tutor out a lot of things from your deck. The main card that you're going to be tutoring out is going to be Zephyros, because Zephyros allows you to basically extend your plays, bounce your Lunalight Tiger from your pendulum scale back to your hand, summon it out. Tiger can summon another monster back from your graveyard, and you can go for like a rank 4 play, something that, well, we're going to get into the rank 4s in just a bit, but something that can disrupt your opponent based on whatever deck they're playing is going to be very nice. Now, Curious can also helps you mill, so after you send a card with Curious, you're going to mill 3 cards to the graveyard, and you're more likely than not actually going to hit a Lunalight Perfume. In my testing, it's happened like so many times, I can't even count, but having like access to graveyard effects like Lunalight Perfume and things like that helps you actually just extend your plays a little bit more, might help you access your Lunalight Wolf and things like that as well. Now, if you have already used your Zephyros, you can easily just directly send Lunalight Perfume to the graveyard with your Curious, and then just go from there. Again, you can easily access Lunalight Wolf, and then that means you can basically summon like a Panther or Leo Dancer into one of the zones under the Curious, and go for a lot of damage. So yeah, that does it for the Link monsters. It's fairly simple lineup. You can play like higher link monsters if you want. You can replace the Decode Talker. But personally, I just really like the Decode Talker because it acts as a big beat stick that also protects your Lunalight fusions from targeting effects, which is kind of nice. But for the rank 4s, we're going to start off with one copy of Evil Swarm Nightmare. Now, I haven't played this card in quite a while because of the fact that, you know, the last time I played this was actually in Dark Lunalights before Links, I believe, with the Zodiacs and stuff like that. But Evil Swarm Nightmare, fantastic card, actually really good against Pendulum Magicians because of the fact that they don't want to Pendulum Summon before going into their Electromite. So they're going to use things like their Abyss Actor Curtain Riser and Chronograph, Astrograph to get more bodies on the field. But every time they special summon, you can just flip their monsters face down, and Nightmare's not once per turn. So you can do this twice in a turn, and that, you know, if they optimally open up, like, let's say, Curtain Riser and Chronograph, you just flip the Curtain Riser and the Chronograph face down. They don't have access to Electromite anymore without going for their Pendulum Summon, because the only other thing they can do is just basically just normal summon a monster at that point, unless they happen to open up like Astrograph as well, but then they're just going to be very unoptimal in their play string, so there's that. Okay, we're also playing one copy of Abyss Dweller, one copy of Baguska, one copy of Tornado Dragon, and one copy of Brotherhood of the Fire Fist, Tiger King. So these rank 4s are really just, they're kind of, these 3 in the middle are kind of like toolbox cards. Abyss Dwellers for the graveyard decks. Baguskas for like if you're going in blind, you don't really know what your opponent's playing. You can always just sit on a Baguska just to be safe. Tornado Dragons for like pendulum decks and things like that. You can hit Wisdom Eyes and all that good stuff. And then Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Tiger King is here as utility. You don't really go into him too often, but if you just open up, like, you know, Kaleido Chick in a form of revival, you can easily send a level 4 with Kaleido Chick, revive it back, make the Tiger King, set the Tenki, go for a search, and then go from there. So it kind of helps you if you don't really open up your really explosive combos. But yeah, that does it for the rank 4s. Next off, we're going to go into some of the fusions. So for the fusions, fairly standard lineup. We're just playing one copy of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. It's just a really powerful beat stick that can potentially swing for a ton of damage because you can actually steal the attack points of a special summon monster that your opponent controls, which is pretty good. Then for Lunalight fusions, we're playing 2 copies of Lunalight Cat Dancer, 2 copies of Lunalight Panther Dancer, and then 1 copy of Lunalight Leo Dancer. In this deck, you do not want to play more than 1 Leo Dancer. You're only really going to summon her if you're going for game. The main focus of the deck, like if you're going for follow-up plays on subsequent turns, you're going to make Panther Dancer, because you can easily just White Rabbit into Kaleido Chick, send the Cat Dancer, and then polymerization with the White Rabbit and the Kaleido Chick for the Panther Dancer, and then just go from there. You really don't need access to the Leo Dancer unless like your opponent has a really big board, so then you can just Kaleido Chick, send a Panther Dancer, and then Wolf can banish all those cards to summon your Leo Dancer. But if you're not going for game with the Leo Dancer, you probably shouldn't be summoning it, because Panther Dancer is just better at breaking boards anyway. Same with Starving Venom, it's just a fantastic card. But yeah, other than that, that does it for the deck profile. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, please leave a like, subscribe for more Lunalight content, and leave a comment down below letting me know what I can do to improve. And until next time, take care.